The call came at 11:47 on a rainy Tuesday night. Daniel Bennett almost ignored it. He was sitting on the edge of his bed, still wearing the shirt he had worn to dinner. His wedding album was open beside him. He had been married for only 6 days. 6 days, yet he was already looking through the wedding photographs again. There were hundreds of them. Daniel had spent the entire evening choosing which ones he wanted. Printed. The picture of him standing at the altar. The picture of Emily walking toward him. The picture of their first dance. The picture of his late mother's empty chair at the reception. That last one always made him emotional. His mother had died 3 years earlier. She had not lived long enough to see him get married, but Daniel had placed a small photograph of her on the table beside the wedding flowers. He wanted to believe she had somehow been there. Then his phone rang. Daniel looked at the screen. Lucas Reed, wedding photographer. He frowned. Lucas had already delivered the wedding photographs 3 days earlier. There was no reason for him to call this late. Daniel answered. Hello. For several seconds, Lucas said nothing. Then he spoke in a low voice. Daniel, are you alone? Daniel sat up straight. Yes. Why? I need you to do something for me. What? Don't show Emily these photographs. Daniel looked at the album beside him. What photographs? The wedding photographs. His smile disappeared. Lucas took a slow breath. There is something very wrong in them. Daniel felt a strange coldness in his chest. Wrong how? I don't know how to explain it over the phone. Lucas, you're scaring me. I know. His voice became quieter. I found something while going through the original files. Something I didn't notice before. What did you find? I need you to look at the photos again. Daniel looked toward the bedroom door. Emily was downstairs. She had gone to make tea before going to bed. What am I looking for? A man. Daniel frowned. What man? A man who should not have been there. His stomach tightened. Was he a guest? No. Then who was he? I don't know. Daniel heard something strange in Lucas's voice. Fear. Real fear. Send me the photos. He said. I already did. Daniel's phone buzzed. A private link appeared on the screen. He opened it. The first photograph showed Emily walking toward him. Daniel smiled for a moment. Everything looked normal. Emily's white dress, the flowers. The guests. Him standing at the end of the aisle. Then Daniel noticed something. A man stood near the back doors. He was wearing a dark suit. His face was turned slightly away. Daniel zoomed in. Lucas. Yes, I see him. Keep looking. Daniel moved to the next picture. The same man appeared near the reception hall. Then another. He was standing behind Daniel's father. Then another. He was beside the staircase. Then another. He was outside the bridal room. Daniel's breathing became shallow. Why is he following Emily? I don't think he was following her. What do you mean? I think he was watching you. Daniel stopped scrolling. That makes no sense. Lucas did not answer. Daniel continued. There were photographs from before the ceremony. One showed Emily's bridesmaids laughing. Another showed her father fixing his tie. Then Daniel saw the photograph that made his hands go cold. It showed the hallway outside the bridal room. And standing there was Emily. Daniel stared at the screen. No. Lucas said nothing. She wasn't supposed to be there. What? Emily told me she was with her sister. Lucas remained silent. Daniel looked at the photograph again. Emily was standing beside the door. She was holding something. A small black folder. Lucas, he whispered. Yes. Why would Emily have that? I don't know. Daniel looked at the photograph again. There was another person in the hallway. A second figure appeared in the reflection of a glass frame on the wall. Daniel zoomed in. His stomach tightened. It was his older brother, Ryan. Ryan was standing farther down the hallway. He was watching Emily. Daniel's fingers became cold. Ryan had been one of the happiest people at his wedding. He had given a speech. He had hugged Emily. He had raised a glass to their future. At least Daniel thought he had been happy. Now he wondered. Lucas, Daniel said slowly. I'm here. Why are Emily and Ryan together? I was hoping you could tell me. Daniel closed the photograph. He tried to calm himself. There had to be an innocent explanation. Maybe Emily had forgotten something. Maybe Ryan had needed to speak to her. Maybe the photograph meant nothing. But Lucas was not finished. There is another picture. Daniel swallowed. What picture? The one that made me call you. Lucas sent another file. Daniel opened it. It showed the Reception. People were dancing. Daniel was laughing with his father. Emily stood several feet away. Ryan was near the bar. And the strange man stood behind them, but this time, he was holding an envelope. Daniel zoomed in. The envelope had his name written on it. Daniel. He felt a chill move through his body. What is that? I don't know. Did he give it to me? No. Then who was it for? Lucas hesitated. That is what scared me. Daniel waited. The next photograph was taken 12 seconds later. Lucas sent it. The man no longer had the envelope. Daniel looked at Emily. Then Ryan. Then the man's empty hands. Where did it go? Lucas finally answered. I don't know. Daniel stood up. He walked toward the closet. His wedding suit was still hanging there. His jacket was beside it. His wallet was on the dresser. Then he remembered something. At the wedding, he had lost his phone for almost 20 minutes. Emily had found it. At least that was what she told him. Daniel stared at her photograph. Lucas. Yes, there was something else. What? I lost my phone during the reception. When? Right after the first dance. Lucas became quiet. Did anyone have access to your jacket? I don't know. Daniel walked to the closet. His wedding jacket was still hanging there. He reached inside the pocket. Nothing. He checked the inner pocket. Nothing. Then his fingers touched something hard beneath the lining. He froze. He pulled the lining back. A small black object was hidden underneath. A USB drive. Daniel stared at it. He had never seen it before. Lucas, what happened? There is something inside my wedding jacket. What? A USB drive. Lucas did not speak for several seconds. Then he asked a question that made Daniel's blood run cold. Are you sure Emily didn't put anything there? Daniel looked toward the bedroom door. He thought about Emily's smile, her promises, her hand around his at the altar. For the first time since their wedding day, something inside him whispered that he had made a terrible mistake. I don't know, he said. Lucas's voice dropped almost to a whisper. Daniel, don't open that drive on your computer. Why? Because if someone put it there on purpose. He stopped. Daniel waited. Then they may know exactly where it is. The call ended. Daniel stood alone in the bedroom. Rain hit the windows. The wedding album remained open on the bed. He looked at the photograph of himself, smiling beside Emily. For the first time, he noticed something he had never seen before. Behind them, near the wedding cake, Ryan was looking directly at the camera. And he wasn't smiling. Daniel turned the photograph over. There was nothing written on the back. Then his phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. Only 6 words appeared on the screen. You married the wrong woman. Daniel. He stared at the message. Then another one appeared, and the photographs prove it. Daniel's hand tightened around the phone. He looked at the locked bedroom door. Emily was still downstairs. She had no idea what he had just discovered. Or maybe she did. Daniel looked down at the black USB drive in his hand. For the first time, he wondered if his wedding day had really been the happiest day of his life, or if it had been the day someone quietly set a trap for him. And the worst part was this. He still had no idea who had set it, but he was about to find out. Daniel stayed in the bedroom for almost 10 minutes. He did not move. The USB drive was still in his hand. His phone was still showing the unknown message. You married the wrong woman, Daniel. He read it again, then again. He wanted to believe it was some cruel joke. Maybe someone had seen the wedding photos online. Maybe someone was trying to scare him. But then he remembered Lucas's voice, the strange man, the envelope. Emily. Ryan. And now the USB drive. Too many things were connected. Daniel slipped the USB drive into the pocket of his pants. He did not open it. Not yet. He needed to know who he could trust. He walked downstairs. Emily was sitting at the kitchen table. She was smiling. You took a while, she said. Daniel forced a small smile. I was looking for something. What? My old watch. Did you find it? No. Emily stood up. Maybe it's in the car. Daniel watched her carefully. She looked completely normal. That frightened him more than anything. How was your day? She asked. Fine. Your meeting? Fine. She smiled. Then she walked toward him and kissed his cheek. Daniel almost stepped away. Instead, he stayed still. Are you okay? Emily asked. I'm tired. You should sleep. Daniel nodded. He looked at her face. For the first time, he wondered how long she had been lying to him. Had she lied for weeks, months, or had the lies started before they even met? That night, Daniel slept very little. Emily fell asleep beside him. Daniel stayed awake. Around 2 in the morning, he quietly picked up his phone. He opened his messages. He searched for Ryan's name. There were dozens of conversations. Nothing seemed unusual. Then Daniel noticed something. A message from Ryan had been deleted. Only the time remained, 9:40 p.m. to 6 days before the wedding. Daniel remembered that night. Ryan had called him. He had asked Daniel whether the wedding documents were ready. Daniel had thought he was talking about the marriage license. Now he was not so sure. Daniel opened his email. He searched for Ryan. Again, nothing. Then he searched for Emily. Hundreds of messages appeared. He started going backward. Most were ordinary. Dinner plans. Wedding plans. Flowers. Guests. Then he found something strange. An email from Emily to herself. It had been sent from an old account Daniel had never seen. The subject was only one word. Documents. Daniel opened it. There was no message, only one attachment. A scanned legal document. Daniel's heart began racing. He opened it. It was connected to his late father's estate. Daniel's father had left him a large property outside the city. The property had been worth very little when his father died, but a new highway had been approved nearby. The land was now worth millions. Daniel had never cared much about the money. He had planned to keep the property in the family, but the document on Emily's account was different. It was a transfer agreement. It would give another person control of the property. Daniel looked at the signature. His signature. He stared at it. The signature looked almost perfect, but he had never signed it. His hands began to shake. Then he saw the name of the person receiving control. Ryan Bennett. Daniel closed the laptop. His breathing became heavy. Ryan. His own brother. Daniel suddenly remembered something from 3 months earlier. Ryan had asked him a strange question. How long does it take before a married couple can change ownership of property? Daniel had laughed. He had thought Ryan was asking for someone else. Ryan had laughed too. Now that memory felt different. Daniel looked at Emily. She was still asleep. He quietly got out of bed. He went downstairs. He needed air. He walked into the kitchen and opened the back door. Cold rain entered the room. Daniel stood there for a long time. Then he heard footsteps behind him. He turned. Emily stood in the doorway. Daniel. He looked at her. What are you doing awake? I couldn't sleep. She walked closer. Is something wrong? Daniel shook his head. No. Emily studied him. Then she smiled. You've been acting strange since Lucas called. Daniel froze. What? Emily's expression changed, only for a second. Then she smiled again. I mean, you've been quiet. Daniel looked at her. You knew Lucas called. Emily did not answer immediately. That pause told him everything. How did you know? Daniel asked. She looked away. I saw his name on your phone. When? Earlier. Daniel knew she was lying, but he did not challenge her. Instead, he smiled. Right. Emily walked closer. Why did he call? Wedding photos? What about them? Nothing important. She stared at him. Are you sure? Daniel nodded. I'm sure. Emily smiled. Then she kissed him. Good. She walked upstairs. Daniel remained in the kitchen. His heart was pounding. She had not asked what Lucas said. She had asked what was in the photographs. That was not normal. Daniel took out the USB drive. He looked at it. He wanted to open it, but Lucas had warned him not to. So Daniel made a different decision. The next morning, he went to a small computer repair shop owned by a man named Victor. Victor had known Daniel for years. Daniel trusted him. He did not tell Victor where the drive came from. He only said he needed the contents copied safely. Victor looked at the drive. Where did you get this? Daniel hesitated. Wedding stuff. Victor smiled. Secret honeymoon photos. Daniel did not smile. No. Victor noticed his expression. He stopped joking. Give me an hour. Daniel waited outside. 40 minutes later, Victor called. His voice sounded different. Daniel, you need to come inside. Daniel entered. Victor locked the door behind him. What happened? Victor pointed at the computer. There are audio files. How many? 6. Daniel stared at the screen. Can you play them? Victor nodded. The first recording began. There was a man's voice. Daniel recognized it immediately. Ryan. You are sure he signed the papers? A second voice answered. Emily. He will. Daniel felt his chest tighten. The recording continued. He trusts me, Emily said. Ryan laughed. That makes this easy. Daniel's face went pale. Victor looked at him. Do you want me to stop? Daniel shook his head. No. The recording continued. Ryan spoke again. What about the wedding? Emily laughed softly. The wedding is useful. Daniel closed his eyes. His own wedding. Useful. That one word hurt more than anything else. The recording continued. We just need him to transfer control before he realizes what we're doing, Ryan asked, and if he refuses, Emily answered without hesitation. He won't. Daniel's hands curled into fists. Then the recording stopped. The second file started automatically. This time, the voices were closer. Emily sounded angry. You said he would sign before the wedding, Ryan answered. He became suspicious. Then make him trust you more. I've done everything I can. Daniel stared at the screen. Then Emily said something that made his blood turn cold. You forget why I married him. The recording ended. Daniel could barely breathe. Victor looked at him. Daniel. Daniel raised his hand. Play the next one. The third recording began. This time, Ryan was speaking to someone Daniel did not know. The property's worth more than we expected, a stranger answered. And the husband. Ryan laughed. He'll be out of the way soon. Daniel's heart stopped for a moment. What does that mean? He whispered. Victor paused the recording. We don't know. Daniel stared at the screen. He suddenly understood. This was bigger than money. Maybe much bigger. He listened to the rest of the files. Some were short. Some were only a few seconds. But together, they painted a terrible picture. Emily had been talking to Ryan for months. They had discussed Daniel's property. His bank accounts. His wedding. Even his insurance. Daniel felt sick. He had loved Emily. He had defended her. He had trusted her, and she had apparently been planning his future without him. Victor copied everything onto a secure drive. Daniel stood up. What should I do? Victor looked at him. Don't confront them yet. Why? Because if they know you heard these recordings, they may destroy everything. Daniel nodded. He knew Victor was right. He put the secure drive in his pocket. Then his phone rang. It was Emily. Daniel answered. Hello, her voice was soft. Where are you? Out. For how long? Daniel looked at Victor. I had an errand. Emily was silent. Then she asked something strange. Did you find the drive? Daniel's blood went cold. He said nothing. Emily spoke again. Daniel, he slowly closed his eyes. She knew. Somehow, she knew. Then he heard a man's voice in the background. Ryan. Emily had not realized her phone was still connected. Ryan said, Don't worry. He hasn't found anything. Daniel opened his eyes. He looked at Victor. Then he heard Emily whisper, He can't know yet. The call ended. Daniel stood completely still. For the first time, he understood the real danger. Emily and Ryan knew about the USB drive. They knew someone had given it to him. But there was one thing they did not know. They did not know that Daniel had already heard the recordings. He looked at the secure drive in his hand. Then he looked through the glass window at the city outside. His marriage had been a lie. His brother had betrayed him. Someone had been planning to take his father's property, and now they were talking about getting him out of the way. Daniel had every reason to confront them, but he didn't. He made a different choice. He would go home. He would kiss his wife. He would smile at his brother, and he would pretend he knew nothing. Because if Emily and Ryan believed Daniel was still blind, they might reveal everything themselves. But as Daniel stepped outside, his phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number appeared. This time, it contained only one sentence. You heard the recordings. Good. Now ask yourself who recorded them. Daniel stood outside Victor's shop and read the message again. You heard the recordings. Good. Now ask yourself who recorded them. For several seconds, he could not move. The rain had almost stopped. Cars passed along the street. People walked past him without knowing that his entire life had just changed. Daniel looked at the secure drive in his hand. Someone had recorded Emily and Ryan. Someone had placed the USB drive inside his wedding jacket. Someone had warned Lucas. But why? And how did that person know Daniel had listened to the recordings? There was only one way to find out. Daniel called Lucas. The photographer answered after 2 rings. Daniel. Where did you get the original files? Lucas was quiet. What happened? I need the truth. About what? The photographs. Another pause. Then Lucas said, Come to my studio. Daniel drove there immediately. Lucas's studio was on the second floor of an old building. It was small. The walls were covered with wedding photographs. Happy couples, smiling families. Children. Beautiful memories. Daniel looked at them differently now. He wondered how many secrets could hide inside a photograph. Lucas closed the door behind him. You heard the recordings. Daniel looked at him. How do you know? Because whoever contacted me told me you would. Daniel's heart sank. Who contacted you? Lucas shook his head. I don't know. You're lying. I swear I'm not. Lucas walked toward his computer. I received an email 3 days after your wedding. From who? No name. Show me. Lucas opened the email. There was only one message. Look at the original wedding files. Do not edit anything. He is in danger. Daniel stared at the screen. When did you receive this? The morning before I called you. Did you reply? Yes. What did they say? They never answered. Daniel looked at him. Was there an attachment? Lucas nodded. One photograph. He opened it. Daniel's face changed. It was a photograph of his father. Not a recent photograph. An old one. Daniel recognized the location immediately. His father's farm. But there was something strange in the picture. His father was standing beside another man. Daniel had never seen him before. Lucas zoomed in. On the back of the photograph was a handwritten note. If they ever come for Daniel, show him this. Daniel stared at the words. Who wrote that? Lucas shook his head. I don't know. Daniel felt his eyes burn. His father had been dead for 3 years. Why would he have left something like this? And why had nobody shown it to him? Lucas opened another file. This came with the photograph. It was a scanned document. Daniel read it slowly. It was a letter written by his father. The letter mentioned Ryan. Daniel's hands started shaking. His father had written that Ryan had been asking questions about the family property. He had also warned that Ryan could not be trusted with financial matters. But there was more. The letter mentioned a woman who had once worked for the family. Her name was Sarah Collins. Daniel had never heard the name. Lucas looked at him. Do you know her? No. Your father did. Daniel read the final line. Sarah knows what Ryan did. If anything happens to me, find her. Daniel lowered the paper. His father had known. Maybe he had suspected Ryan years ago. Maybe the wedding was not the beginning of the plan. Maybe it had been the final stage of something much older. Daniel drove home that evening. Emily was waiting in the living room. She smiled when he entered. There you are. Daniel put his coat down. Long day. She walked toward him. Everything okay? Everything is fine. Emily kissed him. Daniel forced himself not to react. He looked at her. For one terrible moment, he remembered the first time they met. It had been at a small coffee shop. She had spilled coffee on his jacket. She had laughed. He had laughed too. He had believed that moment was real. Now he wondered if she had noticed his expensive watch, or his name, or his connection to his father's property. Maybe their first meeting had never been an accident. That night, Daniel searched through his old phone. He found the first messages Emily had ever sent him. Then he noticed something. The first message had been sent before they officially met. It said, I think I saw you at your father's farm today. Daniel stared at the screen. He remembered that day. He had never been at the farm with Emily. He had never even told her where the farm was. His hands became cold. She had known about him before he knew about her. Daniel kept scrolling. There were dozens of messages from that same week. Some had been deleted, but fragments remained. He found one sentence that made him stop breathing. Ryan says he is worth the effort. Daniel closed his eyes. The truth was becoming unbearable. He had not met Emily by chance. Someone had sent her. Someone had chosen him. Someone had built the relationship carefully. Daniel went into the bathroom and locked the door. He needed to be alone. He opened the secure drive on his phone. There were copies of the recordings. He listened again. This time, he noticed something he had missed before. Behind Emily's voice, there was a faint sound. A clock. Tick. 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 Then a door closing. Daniel knew that sound. He had heard it many times. It was the old clock in his father's study. The study had been locked since his father's death. Daniel had the only key, or so he thought. He went downstairs. Emily was sitting on the couch. I thought you were going to bed, she said. I forgot something. What? I need to check the garage. She watched him. Why? Something is bothering me. Her smile disappeared for half a second. Then she nodded. Okay. Daniel walked outside. He entered the garage. His father's old storage boxes were still there. He found the key to the study. Then he drove to the farm. It was almost midnight when he arrived. The house was dark. Daniel unlocked the front door. The smell of old wood filled the room. He walked toward his father's study. He opened the door. Everything was exactly as he remembered. The desk. The books. The old clock. The chair where his father used to sit. Daniel walked toward the clock. He stopped. The clock was running. His father had stopped it on the day he died. Daniel remembered that clearly. He reached behind it. His fingers touched something. A small metal key. Daniel pulled it out. There was a tiny tag attached to it. Box 17. He searched the room. There were 17 old storage boxes. The last one was hidden behind a cabinet. Daniel pulled it forward. The lock matched the key. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside were old bank papers, photographs, letters, and one small recorder. Daniel pressed the button. His father's voice filled the room. Daniel, if you're hearing this, then I am probably gone. Daniel stopped breathing. His father's voice continued. I need you to listen carefully. Daniel sat down. I trusted Ryan once. His father's voice became weak. That was my mistake. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. His father continued. Ryan did not act alone. Daniel looked toward the door. Someone inside this family helped him. The recording paused. Then his father said something that made Daniel's entire body go cold. Her name is not Emily. Daniel stared at the recorder. The voice continued. The woman you know today was given another name when she first came to this family. Daniel's hand began to shake. His father had known. He had known about the woman who would eventually marry his son. Then the recording revealed one final detail. The woman called Emily is connected to Sarah Collins. Daniel stood up. His heart was pounding. Sarah. The same woman Lucas had mentioned. Daniel looked through the papers in the box. At the bottom was an old photograph. It showed Sarah standing beside a much younger Ryan. And beside them stood a little girl. Daniel stared at the child's face. He had seen those eyes before. He knew that face. It was impossible, but the photograph was clear. The little girl had grown up. She had changed her name. And she had eventually become his wife. Emily. Daniel dropped the photograph. The room became completely silent. Then his phone rang. It was Lucas. Daniel answered. Lucas was breathing heavily. Daniel, you need to leave the farm. Why? I just found out who the man in your wedding photographs is. Daniel looked toward the dark hallway. Who? Lucas whispered. Your father's private investigator. Daniel's heart stopped. He died 5 years ago. I know. Lucas took a breath. That is the problem. Daniel heard a sound behind him. A floorboard creaked. He slowly turned. Someone was standing in the doorway of his father's study. Daniel could not see the face. The figure stepped forward. Then the lights went out. And in the darkness, Daniel heard a familiar voice. Your father should have destroyed that recording. It was Ryan. Your father should have destroyed that recording. Ryan's voice came from the darkness. Daniel stood frozen. He could barely breathe. His phone was still against his ear. Lucas was shouting from the other end. Daniel. Daniel, are you there? Daniel did not answer. He slowly put the phone into his pocket. The room was completely dark. Only the sound of rain came through the old windows. Ryan stepped closer. Daniel could hear his shoes against the wooden floor. You should have stayed home, Ryan said. Daniel finally found his voice. How long have you known? Ryan stopped. Known what? That I found out. Ryan gave a quiet laugh. You always were slower than Dad. Daniel felt anger rising inside him. You married me to Emily. No. Ryan's voice was calm. I didn't marry you to her. You planned it. I helped. Daniel stared into the darkness. Why? Ryan switched on a small lamp. His face appeared. He looked calm, almost relaxed. That frightened Daniel more than anger would have. Because your father left you everything, Ryan said. Daniel shook his head. He left me the farm. He left you more than that. Ryan walked toward the desk. The land was worth almost nothing when he died. Now it is worth millions, so you wanted the money. I wanted what I believed should have been mine. Daniel laughed bitterly. You could have asked. Ryan looked at him. You would have said no. Yes, I knew it. Daniel picked up the photograph of Emily as a child. Did she know? Ryan's expression changed. Emily knew enough. She knew who I was before we met. Yes. She knew about the property. Yes. And you sent her to me. Ryan did not answer. Daniel understood. His marriage had never been a marriage. It had been a plan. A carefully built plan. Ryan walked toward the desk. Your father found out about us years ago. Daniel looked at him. About Emily. About the scheme. Then why didn't he stop you? He tried. Ryan pointed toward the old recorder. That recording was made shortly before his death. Daniel's eyes filled with anger. What happened to him? Ryan became silent. Daniel stepped closer. What happened to my father? Ryan looked away. His heart failed. You expect me to believe that. It doesn't matter what you believe. It matters to me. Ryan looked directly at him. Your father was going to change the trust. Daniel froze. What trust? Ryan smiled. Now you understand. Daniel felt the room spinning. His father had never told him about another trust. Ryan continued. He had placed most of the land behind a protection clause. You couldn't sell it. You couldn't transfer it. You couldn't even use it as security without approval. Daniel stared at him. So you needed me to sign? Yes. And Emily was supposed to convince me? Yes. Daniel looked at the photograph of his wife. Did she ever love me? Ryan laughed. Daniel's face tightened. That is what you want to know. Yes. Ryan shrugged. You were never the important part. Those words hurt more than Daniel expected. He had loved Emily. He had imagined growing old with her. He had believed every promise. And to her, he had been nothing more than a signature. Daniel looked down at the recorder. Why didn't you destroy this? Ryan's expression hardened. I thought I had. Daniel looked at him. What does that mean? Ryan did not answer. Suddenly, the lights came back on. Daniel blinked. Ryan was gone. The back door stood open. Rain blew across the floor. Daniel ran outside. There was no one there. Only tire marks in the mud. Ryan had escaped. Daniel stood in the rain. He felt angry. But beneath the anger was something else. Clarity. For the first time, he knew exactly what he was dealing with. He returned to the study. He picked up the recorder. Then he noticed something beneath the desk. A small envelope. His father's handwriting was on it. For Daniel. Open only when you know the truth. Daniel opened it. Inside was a short letter. His father had written, if Ryan ever brings someone into your life and tells you she loves you, do not trust the story. Trust the evidence. Daniel closed his eyes. His father had known. Maybe he had known everything. Then Daniel found another piece of paper. It contained a phone number. Under the number was one name. Sarah Collins. Daniel immediately called. A woman answered after several rings. Hello, Sarah. Silence. Who is this? My name is Daniel Bennett. Sarah stopped breathing. Then she whispered, you found the box. Daniel looked around the study. Double quotes. Yes. Then you know, not everything. Sarah was quiet. Where are you? At my father's farm. Leave. Why? Because Ryan knows you found it. Daniel looked toward the open door. He was just here. Sarah's voice became urgent. Daniel, listen to me. Ryan is not the person you should be most afraid of. Daniel's stomach tightened. Who should I be afraid of? Sarah hesitated. Emily. The call ended. Daniel stood completely still. He had expected Sarah to say Ryan. Instead, she had named his wife. Daniel returned home before sunrise. He did not tell Emily about Ryan. He did not tell her about the box. He did not tell her about Sarah. He walked into the house quietly. Emily was asleep. Daniel stood in the bedroom doorway. He looked at her. She seemed peaceful, almost innocent. He wondered how many times she had looked at him the same way while hiding the truth. Daniel could have confronted her. He could have demanded answers, but he remembered his father's words. Trust the evidence. So he did something different. He went to his office. He opened a new bank account. He changed the passwords to his property records. He called his lawyer. Mr. Bennett, the lawyer said, I need a private meeting. Is everything okay? No. Daniel paused. I think someone has been trying to take control of my father's estate. The lawyer became serious. Do you have proof? Yes. How soon can you come in? Today. Daniel spent the next several hours gathering everything. The recordings. The photographs. The forged document. The messages. His father's letter. He copied everything. Then he made 3 separate backups. One went to his lawyer. One went to Victor. One he kept hidden. He knew one thing now. Emily and Ryan believed they were close to winning. Daniel wanted them to keep believing that. He returned home that evening. Emily was cooking dinner. She looked over her shoulder. You're home early. Daniel smiled. Yeah. How was work? Busy. She walked toward him. Then she kissed him. Daniel forced himself to smile. Emily touched his face. You look tired. I am. She hugged him. Daniel stood still. He could feel her heartbeat. For one brief moment, he remembered the woman he thought he had married. Then he remembered the recording. You forget why I married him. The feeling disappeared. After dinner, Emily asked a question. Daniel. Yeah, do you trust me? Daniel looked at her. He knew this was a test. Yes. Emily smiled. Good. She leaned forward. Because I have something important to tell you. Daniel's heart began beating faster. What? Emily sat down. Ryan called me. Daniel kept his face calm. What did he say? He said he had found a problem with the property documents. Daniel waited. Emily continued. He thinks you need to sign something tomorrow. Daniel almost laughed. They were moving faster than he expected. What kind of document? I don't know, she smiled. But it will make everything easier. Daniel nodded. Okay. Emily looked relieved. Then you'll sign. Daniel smiled. If it's necessary. She kissed him. Thank you. That night, Daniel waited until Emily fell asleep. Then he opened his laptop. He reviewed the wedding photographs again. This time, he studied every image. He enlarged every reflection. Every doorway. Every face. Every shadow. Then he found something. A photograph taken during the reception. Emily was standing near the staircase. Ryan was across the room. The mysterious man stood behind them. But Daniel noticed something he had missed before. The man was not looking at Emily. He was looking at Ryan. And in his hand was another envelope. Daniel enlarged the image. There was a small symbol on the envelope. A symbol he recognized. It was the same symbol printed on his father's old trust documents. Daniel's heart began racing. The photographer had not simply captured evidence of the betrayal. He had captured evidence of something much older. Daniel called Lucas. Lucas answered immediately. I found something, Daniel said. So did I. Daniel stopped. What? Lucas took a breath. I finally identified the man in the photographs. Daniel waited. Lucas spoke slowly. His name is Thomas Reed. Daniel frowned. Reed. Yes. Is he related to you? Lucas was silent. Then he said, he was my father. Daniel's blood went cold. Lucas continued. My father disappeared 5 years ago. Daniel looked at the photograph. That isn't possible. I know. Then who was at my wedding? Lucas's voice shook. I don't know. Daniel stared at the image. Then Lucas said something that changed everything. My father was investigating your family before he disappeared. Daniel could not speak. Lucas continued. And I found his old case file. What was he investigating? A long silence followed. Then Lucas whispered, your father's death. Daniel's hand tightened around the phone. The wedding was no longer just about his marriage. It was connected to his father's death. And suddenly, Daniel understood why someone had wanted those photographs hidden. Because the photographs did not only prove that Emily and Ryan had betrayed him, they might prove something much darker. Something that had started years before Daniel ever met his wife. And tomorrow, when Emily expected him to sign the final document, Daniel planned to let her believe he was still completely under her control. But this time, he would not be signing anything. He would be setting a trap, and he had no idea yet who would walk into it first. Daniel woke before sunrise. He had barely slept. The words from Lucas kept repeating in his mind. Your father's death. For 3 years. Daniel had believed. His father died naturally. A weak heart. A sudden collapse. A funeral. A grave. He had never questioned it. Now everything was different. Daniel got dressed quietly. Emily was still asleep. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he walked downstairs. His lawyer, Michael Grant, was waiting in a parked car across the street. Daniel got inside. I found something, Daniel said. Michael looked at him. What? Daniel handed him the copy of his father's letter. Michael read it carefully. Then he looked up. This changes things. How? If your father suspected Ryan before his death, we need to know what happened to the original trust documents. They are at the farm. Then we need them. Daniel nodded. I also have recordings. Michael's expression became serious. Are they original? Yes. Then protect them. Daniel looked through the window. I think Emily and Ryan are going to make me sign something today. Michael nodded. Good. Daniel looked at him. Good. Because now we know what they are trying to do. Michael placed a folder on the seat. We can use their own plan against them. Daniel opened the folder. Inside were copies of the forged documents. Michael pointed to the signature. This is not your signature. I know. But we found something else. What? The document was prepared before your wedding. Daniel stared at him. How long before? 6 weeks. Daniel's face became pale. 6 weeks. That was before Emily had even proposed. Before their wedding plans. Before he had told anyone about the final value of the property. Someone had known. Michael continued. The person who prepared this document used a law office connected to your brother. Daniel felt anger rising again. So Ryan planned everything. Maybe. Michael paused. But there is something. That does not make sense. What? If Ryan wanted the property, why did he need Emily? Daniel looked at him. Because she could convince me, maybe, Michael closed the folder, or because she had access to something Ryan didn't. Daniel thought about the photograph of Emily as a child. Then, he remembered Sarah's warning, you should be afraid of Emily. He needed answers. Daniel called Sarah. She answered immediately. Did you find the documents? Yes. Then you know Ryan was involved. I know. You need to leave Emily. I will. Daniel, listen to me. Do it now. I can't. Why? Because if I leave now, they will know I found out. Sarah became silent. Daniel continued. I need to know why she did this. Sarah took a slow breath. Then meet me. Where? Old Mill Road. There is a diner there. When? An hour. Daniel agreed. Before leaving, he returned to the house. Emily was awake. She was standing in the kitchen. Good morning, she said. Daniel smiled. Good morning. You're leaving? For a meeting. With who? My lawyer. Emily's face changed. Only for a moment. Then she smiled. About the property. Daniel nodded. Double quotes yes. She walked toward him. Daniel, you know you can trust me. He looked at her. I know. She touched his arm. Then don't let anyone turn you against your family. Daniel almost laughed. Instead, he kissed her forehead. I won't. He left. At the diner. Sarah was waiting. She looked older than Daniel expected. Her face was tired. Her hands were shaking. You look like your father, she said. Daniel sat down. You knew him well. Sarah looked toward the window. I worked for him for almost 12 years. What did you do? I managed his private records. Daniel leaned forward. Tell me about Ryan. Sarah lowered her voice. Your brother was angry with your father for years. Because of the inheritance. Not at first. What then? Your father discovered Ryan was stealing money from a business account. Daniel froze. How much? Enough to ruin him. Why didn't Dad report him? Because he loved him. Daniel looked down. His father had protected Ryan. Again. Sarah continued. Your father wanted to give Ryan another chance. And Emily. Sarah's face changed. Emily was part of Ryan's second plan. Daniel waited. She wasn't originally called Emily. I know. She was called Anna. Daniel nodded. Why did she change her name? Because your father discovered who she really was. Daniel's voice became quieter. Who was she? Sarah looked directly at him. Ryan's partner. Daniel felt sick. She worked with him before she ever met you. Sarah continued. They had already tried to take money from your father once. What happened? He caught them. Daniel stared at her. So Dad knew Emily. He knew the woman she was before she became Emily. Daniel looked toward the door. Then why did he let her marry me? Sarah shook her head. He didn't. Daniel froze. What? Your father tried to stop the wedding. Daniel's heart pounded. But he never told me. He was planning to. Sarah looked down. He had an appointment with you the morning after the wedding. Daniel stared at her. The morning after. Yes. But he was already dead. Sarah nodded. That is why I believe his death was not an accident. Daniel sat completely still. For 3 years. He had carried his father's death as a painful memory. Now it felt like a crime. Did you tell the police? Sarah looked frightened. I tried. What happened? They told me there was no proof. Daniel's jaw tightened. Do you have proof? Sarah reached inside her bag. She pulled out a small envelope. This is the last thing your father gave me. Daniel opened it. Inside was a photograph. His father was standing outside the family farm. Beside him was a young woman. Daniel stared. It was Emily, but she looked different. Her hair was shorter. She was younger, and she was standing beside Ryan. On the back of the photograph was a date. 2 days before Daniel met Emily. Daniel's hands began to shake. Then Sarah gave him another photograph. This one showed Emily entering his father's study. The date was the same. Daniel looked up. What was she doing there? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She was looking for the trust documents. Daniel felt the room spin. She knew where they were. Yes. Then why didn't she take them? Because your father caught her. Daniel stared at Sarah. What happened next? Sarah leaned closer. Your father told her to leave. And she did. No. Sarah's voice dropped. She threatened him. Daniel closed his eyes. The truth was becoming unbearable. Then his phone buzzed. It was Michael. Daniel answered. Hello. Daniel, where are you? At the diner. You need to come back. Why? I found something in the trust records. What? Michael hesitated. The protection clause was changed. Daniel froze. Changed how? It now contains a second condition. What condition? Michael spoke carefully. If you die before the transfer is complete, the property does not go to Ryan. Daniel's heart stopped. Then who gets it? Michael took a breath. Emily. Daniel said nothing. Michael continued. That means the entire plan may have been bigger than we thought. Daniel looked at Sarah. She had heard enough from his expression. Emily wasn't helping Ryan. Sarah whispered. Daniel looked at her. She was using him. Sarah nodded. Slowly. That's what I was afraid of. Daniel suddenly understood. Ryan wanted the property. Emily wanted something else. She had married him because she needed access. But what was she planning to do with the property after Ryan was gone? Daniel stood up. I have to go. Sarah grabbed his arm. Daniel. He looked at her. Don't go home alone. Why? Because Emily knows you have been asking questions. Daniel pulled his arm free. I need to see her. He drove home. The house was quiet. To quiet. Emily. He called. No answer. He walked upstairs. The bedroom door was open. Her suitcase was gone. Daniel's heart sank. He checked the closet. Most of her clothes were missing. Then he noticed something on the bed. A white envelope. His name was written on it. Daniel. He opened it. There was a single sheet of paper. I know you found out. Daniel's blood ran cold. Below that were 5 more words. You should have left sooner. His phone suddenly rang. It was Lucas. Daniel answered. Lucas. Lucas sounded terrified. Daniel, listen carefully. What happened? I found the original photograph. Which one? The photograph from your wedding. What about it? Lucas took a breath. The man in the background wasn't watching Ryan. Daniel froze. Then who was he watching? Lucas whispered. He was watching Emily. Daniel's heart began pounding. Lucas continued. And Daniel. What? I enlarged the envelope in his hand. Daniel waited. It wasn't addressed to you. Daniel's eyes widened. Then who was it addressed to? Lucas's voice shook. It said. He stopped. What? Lucas finally spoke. For Emily, from your father. Daniel slowly lowered the phone. His father's final secret had been hidden inside his wedding photographs. And now Emily was gone. But the worst part was still unknown. What had Daniel's father written to the woman who was supposed to destroy his family? And why had Emily taken it with her? Daniel stood in the middle of the bedroom. The phone was still in his hand. Lucas's last words kept repeating in his mind. For Emily, from your father. Daniel looked at the empty closet. Emily was gone. Her suitcase was gone. Her car was gone. But she had left one thing behind. The letter. Daniel picked it up again. He read it carefully. There were only a few words. I know why you came into my son's life. Daniel's breathing stopped. Below that was another line. But I also know what Ryan promised you. Daniel stared at the paper. There was no signature. No explanation. Just one final sentence. If you want the truth about what happened to your father, meet me where Daniel cannot find you. Daniel looked at the date. The letter had been written 3 years ago. Before his father's death. Before the wedding. Before Daniel even met Emily. Yet Emily had kept it. Why? Daniel called Lucas. Where did you find the original photograph? At my studio. Can you send it to me? I already did. Daniel opened the photograph. The image showed the wedding reception. The mysterious man stood in the background. He was holding an envelope. Daniel zoomed in. Lucas was right. The envelope was addressed to Emily. But Daniel noticed something else. There was a date written beneath her name. The same date as his father's death. Daniel's heart began racing. He called Michael. I need you to check something. What? My father died 3 years ago. I need every record from that day. Michael was silent. Daniel, are you sure? Yes. I'll start now. Daniel hung up. Then he called Sarah. She answered quickly. Did you find Emily? No. Where is she? She left. Sarah became quiet. Daniel, you need to listen to me. I know. No. You don't. Her voice sounded frightened. Emily is not running because she is afraid of you. Then why? Because she is afraid of someone else. Daniel froze. Who? Sarah hesitated. Ryan. Daniel looked toward the window. Ryan is working with her. Not anymore. What happened? I don't know. Sarah took a breath. But yesterday, Ryan called me. What did he say? He said Emily had betrayed him. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Betrayed him how? He said she was never planning to give him the property. Daniel finally understood. Emily had been using Ryan to. Ryan wanted Daniel's property. Emily wanted something else. Maybe she had always planned to take everything for herself. Daniel suddenly remembered the new trust condition. If Daniel died before the transfer was complete, the property would go to Emily. His stomach tightened. Emily had not needed him to sign anything. She only needed him gone. Daniel walked to the bathroom mirror. He looked at himself. 6 days earlier, he had been a newly married man. Now he was standing in a house that felt like a crime scene. He had lost his wife. He had lost his trust in his brother. He had lost the simple belief that his father's death was natural. But he had not lost everything. He still had the evidence. And now he had a plan. Daniel called Michael. Do you still have the copies? Yes. Send everything to the police. Michael paused. Everything. The recordings. Yes. The forged documents. Yes. The photographs. Yes. Daniel took a breath. And the trust documents. Michael understood. You're ready? Daniel looked at the wedding photograph. Yes. But what about Emily? Daniel's voice became calm. Let her come to me. That evening, Daniel received an email. No name. No subject. Only an address and a time. Midnight. Old Riverside Hotel. Room 314. Daniel knew immediately who had sent it. Emily. He did not go alone. Michael arranged for 2 investigators to stay nearby. Sarah agreed to help. Lucas also provided copies of every original wedding photograph. Daniel carried no weapon. He did not need one. His evidence was stronger. At 11:55, Daniel entered the hotel. The hallway was empty. He walked toward room 314. The door was unlocked. He opened it. Emily stood beside the window. She looked tired. For the first time, Daniel saw fear on her face. Daniel, he closed the door. You left. I had to. You could have called. You wouldn't have listened. Daniel looked at her. You're right. Emily looked down. I know what you found. My father's letter. She nodded. Daniel stepped closer. What did he promise you? Emily's eyes filled with tears. He didn't promise me anything. Then why did you keep his letter? Because he was the only person who ever knew the truth. Daniel waited. Emily finally spoke. Ryan told me your father was going to destroy my life. Daniel said nothing. He told me your father knew about my past. What past? Emily looked at him. My real name is Anna Collins. Daniel already knew. My mother was Sarah's sister. Daniel froze. What? Emily continued. Your father knew my mother. He knew what Ryan had done to her family. Daniel stared at her. Ryan had destroyed another family. Years earlier, Emily had grown up believing Daniel's father was part of it. That explained some of the anger, but not the wedding. Why did you marry me? Emily began crying. At first, because Ryan told me to. Daniel's face hardened. And later. Emily looked away. Later, because I wanted the truth. What truth? Your father did not die from a weak heart. Daniel's blood ran cold. I know. Emily shook her head. No, you don't. She pulled a small envelope from her bag. This is what your father gave me. Daniel stared at it. The letter from the wedding photograph. Yes. Why did you hide it? Because I was afraid. Of Ryan. Emily nodded. He killed your father. Daniel felt as if the room had stopped moving. Do you have proof? Emily handed him the envelope. Inside was a small memory card. Daniel looked at it. What is this? A recording. Of what? Your father's final night. Daniel could barely speak. Where did you get it? Your father gave it to me before he died. Daniel looked at her. Then why didn't you give it to me? Because Ryan threatened me. She wiped her tears. He told me that if I went to the police, he would kill me too. Daniel stared at her. You still married me. I know. You lied to me. I know. You used me. I know. Her voice broke. But I never wanted you dead. Daniel looked away. That was the one sentence he had needed to hear. But it did not erase everything. He took the memory card. Then his phone rang. It was Michael. Daniel, where are you? At the hotel. Get out. Why? We just received the police report. Daniel waited. Ryan has been arrested. Daniel's eyes widened. What? He was caught trying to leave the state. Daniel closed his eyes. For the first time in days, he felt something close to relief. But Michael was not finished. They found something in his car. What? Your father's original medical records. Daniel went silent. Michael continued. They show your father's medication was changed shortly before his death. Daniel looked at Emily. She was crying silently. Everything was finally coming together. Ryan had changed the medication. He had planned the property scheme. He had recruited Emily. He had tried to use Daniel's marriage to gain control. But he had made one mistake. He had trusted too many people. The wedding photographer. Sarah. Emily. And Daniel himself. Within days, the evidence reached the police. The recordings were authenticated. The forged documents were exposed. Ryan was charged for fraud and for his involvement in his father's death. The property was protected. The trust remained in Daniel's name. Emily cooperated with the investigation, but Daniel did not take her back. He could understand her fear. He could understand why she had been manipulated. But he could not forget the lies. The marriage ended. Quietly. Without revenge in courtrooms or angry public scenes. Daniel did not need to destroy Emily. The truth had already destroyed the life she had built around a lie. Months later, Daniel returned to his father's farm. He stood outside the old study, the same room where everything had begun. He placed the wedding photograph on the desk. For a long time, he looked at it. It was strange. The picture showed him smiling. Emily was beside him. Ryan stood in the background. And the mysterious man was watching them. A photograph of what looked like happiness. But it had captured something else. The truth. Daniel finally understood why Lucas had called him. The wedding photographs had not ruined his marriage. They had saved his life. His father had tried to warn him. The photographer had found the evidence. Sarah had protected the truth. And even Emily, despite everything she had done, had eventually given him the final piece. Daniel closed the wedding album. Then his phone rang. It was Lucas. Daniel, Lucas said, "There's one more thing." Daniel frowned. "What?" "I was checking the original camera files. And there is one photograph that was never included in the wedding collection." Daniel's heart tightened. "What photograph?" Lucas sent it. Daniel opened the image. It showed the reception hall after everyone had left. The chairs were empty. The lights were off. Only one person stood in the doorway. Daniel zoomed in. His face went pale. It was his father. Daniel stared at the screen. That was impossible. His father had been dead for 3 years. Then he noticed the date on the photograph. It had been taken 6 days after his father's funeral. Daniel's phone slipped slightly in his hand. Lucas called again. "Daniel." He could not answer. Lucas spoke softly. "I don't know who that man is." Daniel kept staring at the photograph. Then he noticed something in the man's hand. An envelope, and written across it were 4 words. "For my son, Daniel." Daniel's heart began pounding. He had thought the wedding photographs had revealed the final secret. But now he understood. They had only opened the door. And somewhere inside his father's unfinished story was one last truth Daniel had never been ready to hear.